You're somebody who you've never painted ever in your whole life, or it could be that you've painted in the past but you haven't for a while and you feel stuck, you lack ideas, whatever the problem is. This technique is it's amazing for how it can get you past that because it helps your brain to start rethinking in a creative way. I think that the way we live and how we're on our iPads and our devices and our watching TV, our brains can lose the capacity for creativity. So this gets you back to creative thinking, and it is a way to start that can be done by anybody, whatever your skill. So I think the reason that watercolor works so good for this, whatever medium you're used to using, um, it works because you can't, well, at least with this technique anyway, you can't overthink it and you can't fuss with it. So the first thing I always start with before I do this, and I do this technique almost every morning. I just find it a way to get started before I use oils and acrylics, and I always just start with my little this watercolor technique to loosen up and get my brain going in the right direction. So my intention each time is something very positive, and I write it down and I put it right in front of me so that it's a reminder, because your brain is going to go to a negative place. It just will. You're going to start judging and criticizing and critiquing. You're going to start thinking about all the things you should be doing instead of doing this right now. So anytime those things come up into my brain, I refocus on my post-it note, which is lighthearted joy. That's all this is about. This isn't about this is not about producing something I can sell or even give as a gift or put up in my home. It's just about play and having fun and being lighthearted. And so oftentimes we'll have lighthearted in it. Um, but today is joy. So that's my intention. I know that might sound goofy to some people. Um, if that doesn't work for you, then you don't have to include that. But for me, it really makes a difference. So just give it a try and see. Because I feel like what's missing with a lot of artists' work is that they're missing that emotional connection to their art. And you can feel it in what they produce. And you can feel it in what an artist produces when they are connected with their intention and with their heart, and that comes through into their creativity. So I'm starting today with a really small palette. I have 4 colors: Azo Yellow, Mayan Orange. I think that's Danielle Smith. Azo Yellow is M. Gran. Opera Pink is Danielle Smith. Helio Turquoise, I just call it Helio Blue, is Schminky. And I might include a neutral tint. That's Danielle Smith as well. So I'm starting with small palette because I want you to start with a small palette. I want you to start with whatever watercolor you have, even if it's a very minimal, maybe it's just the basic colors. If it's, yellow, red, and blue, then you can mix colors. And the key here is to pick colors that inspire you in the moment. So don't overthink that either. That can hold you up, and you just want to move forward. You just want to paint. You just want to get paint onto the paper. The paper that I'm using is cold press, 140 pound, 300 gram, nothing fancy or expensive. It's kind of a medium road. It's not student grade because I find those don't flow very well, but it is kind of a medium expense paper. If you get a student grade, oftentimes you'll get lines in your texture, and I don't really love that, although if maybe that's a look you're going for, then that will work fine for you. So get your paper cut. I cut them to the size of an envelope in case I want to use them for a card. I can, so I cut them a little smaller than a legal size envelope. Sometimes I cut them smaller, little smaller than this size envelope, whatever size envelope you happen to have. I just like to do that just in case I want to use it. That doesn't mean I will. I have my paints ready to go. I try not to overthink the blank page. If you want to get your colors mixed ahead of time, I like to use just a plastic paper plate. This often does help when you're just starting out with watercolors, because new watercolor artists have a tendency to mix their paint way too thick, and this will help you to get the right consistency. So I'll show you as we go along. You need some water. I use 2 containers of water, one for starting when I first put my brush in, get the most of the paint off, and then I have a clean water, which is not very clean. I need to replace that. The other thing is you need a couple brushes. I use either a round 14 or 12 round watercolor brush. The other one I really love is a dagger. This one is a 10 millimeter, 3/8 inch Royal and Langnickel. I think I just got that at Hobby Lobby or Michael's. They're a little harder to find, so you might have to look on Dick Blick or Jerry's Artorama, one of those, to find one. That's about it. Other than that, you could use a spray bottle. You don't have to have one. You can put water on with your brush. I'm going to do one of each. And so let's go ahead and get started. So for the top one, I'm going to spray. I already have my colors, my watercolors sprayed, so I'll respray them. And I'm going to just do a light spray on that bottom one and go back in. Now the trick here is to get enough water. You want it really nice and glossy. And I do have this just a little bit tinted so that you can maybe see that there's quite a bit of water. So you want to be able to tilt it and see some movement. Otherwise, if you don't, then you probably don't have enough water on there. I have a hair there. So I'm going to spray this one just a little bit more. And then look at it. I feel like that's pretty good. Okay. So I'm going to, without overthinking where the colors are going, which is really easy to do, I'm going to start with my yellow and make sure that I don't have too much paint, which I do. See how thick that is? We want more water for sure in that. But we do want it highly pigmented, because what we're going to do is just touch the color into the water and then let it do its thing. Let it do what it will. And clean off your brush. You might want to add just a little water back if you're getting some sharp areas. I'm going to go in with the Mayan orange now. Now you're gonna want to overmix and blend, especially if you're a new artist. But remember, if you do that, you're gonna mess up these organic lines and cool things that are happening. So really fight that tendency to go back and fuss with it. And this is the Opera Pink. Just making sure, yep, that's pretty good. And some of this blue, pretty wet here. See how that we're getting some really cool movement there. Now just a little bit of the neutral tint, which is basically a black gray. So you have to be really careful with this one. It can take over. Okay, now let's see what we have. So I'm just getting some lines I'm not loving, so I'm gonna soften these just a touch without over fussing. And I'm gonna let that dry. The next step in this process is to take our dried paintings. This one still feels just a little tiny bit wet, but take our dried paintings and sketch some shapes out. So I start with any color of a watercolor pencil, and the brand, it doesn't matter. I started with this one. I kind of played with the shapes that were already there. Sometimes I do that. This one just kind of lent itself to that. This one really had nothing to do with the shapes, although I did kind of play off of this round area and this round, some of the round areas, but otherwise those were just laid on top of the background. And I love the way that turned out. I like the way this one turned out. I have, oh, I do these every day. I have tons more. I started this one, felt like it needed to be a watery seahorse. I had a bloom right here, which was kind of a fun mistake. So anyway, I have tons of others. I don't know where they are. So for these, I'm kind of seeing a dolphin here. So just with your pencil, just get your shape on there. And then what happens as you start drawing in, it even has the eye there, the shapes as you go. And if you don't know how, you know, exactly a dolphin should look, just Google it and get your shape right. It doesn't have to be exactly the shape that's created by this light area. If you feel like to, you know, really get the shape of a dolphin, you need to draw outside a little ways, you know, that's totally fine. And maybe this is the waves coming up, and you can add a little extra design over the top of this and coming down into the color. Don't feel defined by the shape. And I'm going to go ahead and keep going on this, and then I'll post a picture when it's done. Okay, so now what I've done with this top one is I sketched it out with a watercolor pencil first, and I got the shape, and I kept fussing with it until it felt about right, although I'm not great at painting dolphins. Then I went over the top with my finest micron, which is 005, and this is super tiny. I need to get a new one because it's a little hard working on the watercolor textured paper with that tiny little pen. But what happens when you do that is you barely get to see where your marks are. But if you make a mistake, it's really easy to go back over and fix it. Then I come over with a 05 or 08. 05 is a little smaller, 08 is a little fatter, and thicken the lines that I know I like, and just keep working with it. Sometimes I'll sit and watch a movie and play with these and just keep, you know, getting lines on here. Don't be afraid to leave some of the area blank and just do a semblance of some marking or none at all. Now on this one I had a little more trouble seeing a design without forcing it, so I decided to I do have some pencil on here. I decided to just go over it with and get some leaf and flower lines on here, kind of an odd shape flower design, just maybe a little abstract, and the stems on here. And keep this one really simple, but I do love the colors in here. And the background, it looks like there's I don't know, a whole field of wildflowers back behind, and you're getting all those colors, but you're focusing in on this one abstract wildflower. So I'm gonna design that one out and just play around and see what you can get with your design. I'm excited to see how you do with this. Please post any of your pictures. If you've tried it, let me know how it's working for you. If you have any questions, if you're having any difficulties, if you have maybe a design and you just can't see anything in it, post it and let's talk about maybe what other people see. And sometimes that helps when you're first getting started to help your eye see the different shapes and the designs and the possibilities, just to get started. So feel free to do that. I'm excited to see what you come up with in your creative artwork, and don't forget to set a wonderful intention for your paint.